Risk culture is something that a lot of people are struggling to understand and particularly define. It's how you think about uncertainties arising in your day job, it's how you plan ahead to anticipate things, it's how you react to things as they happen.
Some of the risks that the business faces actually move quite quickly, particularly in the financial services sector. I think if one thing that the global financial crisis has told us is, as a world, we didn't really understand the severity of the risks that we were constantly taking on a day-by-day basis within the financial services sector.
People can find the formula in terms of what will make them successful for a period of time, but it's actually sustaining success. How do organisations sustain success and performance? When you start to look inside those organisations, you're likely to find cultures that are incredibly effective.
Businesses have got to take risk in order to make money. The point is understanding the amount of risk that's being taken.
Processes are changing so quickly, technology is changing so quickly, product ideas are being developed so quickly that if they reflect too much, if they think too hard, if they do too much planning, they're going to simply miss the ideas. So they need to take prudent risks, but they do need to take risks in order to succeed.
I think companies that have a culture of innovation are very strong. They have the ability to understand risk and intelligently think it through, but also manage the fact that lack of innovation is a risk in itself. If you look at the best performing firms over a long period of time, they're the ones who knew when to change course, when to react, how to respond appropriately to risk and uncertainty in their business.
An organisation has to understand its risks. That doesn't necessarily mean that one person somewhere hidden in a broom cupboard somewhere has to understand it. It's got to be understood across the organisation. It has to be driven from the top. Until the higher levels of an organisation are prepared to accept that challenge from below, the proper risk culture will never develop.
So part of the work with culture is actually arriving at a common language amongst the board, amongst the senior management team and amongst the staff and the people within the organisation, because it impacts at every level and it works at every level, and everybody at every level has a contribution to make to culture.
So a lot of big risks that we would see in our industry tend to come from a multitude of factors which have built up over a period of time, and usually characterised by being not obvious in the early stages, so they tend to be ignored. So culturally, you might find an organisation is trying to be sensitive to risk and everybody's trying to do the right thing, but all those little things add up ultimately into some really big bad thing that ultimately goes wrong.
You have to think about the risks that you can't quantify. You have to think about, as I was saying, how people talk to each other.
What are you going to do when things go wrong? Can you really rely on the framework that you've got in place, knowing that it hasn't been tested or you haven't worked out how individuals will actually respond? Is quite a dangerous position to be in.
I think that's quite tricky because you can read some very theoretical documents, but when it comes to 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, what do you actually do?
The development of the risk process itself is really making sure that people understand that risks evolve and that they're not the same today as they were 2 years ago when we first thought about it. That methodology needs to be embedded in the day-to-day management process.
And the really important thing about that is to realise that whatever happens, it won't be what you planned for. It will be something that could be quite like it, or it could be completely different. But that doesn't invalidate your plan or the thinking that you've done. That's all still going to be quite useful.
Milliman's role in helping companies manage that sort of do-nothing risk is to really challenge them and ask them to think carefully about what they need to be successful.
I've been researching culture within organisations for a number of years and developing models and tools to do that in a pragmatic way, in a reasonably easily accessible way. So I started talking with Milliman, specifically looking at how we could use the measurement approaches around risk culture and developing the tools to deliver a result where their clients could also engage quickly, but at the same time presenting a rich source of data for them to develop their risk cultures.
The work that we did with Milliman around the culture tool that helped us analyse and understand the culture and identify where we needed to make changes to really develop that culture to work in a more risk-aware way was incredibly useful.
So I think a lot of boards and management teams have come from the era that think of companies like machines. And so there's a view that you monitor them, and if they vary from the selected path, then somehow you push them back on course. And so, of course, in that world, culture has no great value. However, more modern thinking would say that it is all about the people and the things that they do every day, and so monitoring culture is the absolute best temperature test on whether your company is going to achieve the things that it's trying to achieve.